Gentlemen, today I have a great one for you. I'm going to explain and break down for you how you can never be smelt by deer ever again. I'm going to break down the prep, the principles, and the practices that are going to make sure when you're out there, out in that deer woods, that you are not going to be smelled by deer. All right, let's get into it, and welcome to the Hunter's Masterclass. Okay, so step one before I break down the method is understanding how deer's noses work. So unlike other critters and unlike us, deer's noses are extremely powerful. Like, they are ridiculously powerful. There aren't a ton of other animals that have a nose as good as a deer. A deer's nose is its main sense. For humans, it's eyes. We interact with the world mostly with our eyes. Obviously, we can hear things, we can feel things, we can smell things, but our eyes are our best. For deer, that's not the case. So like with vision in deer, you need to be cognizant of it, but that's another topic for another day. Hunting Masterclass part 2 or 3 coming at you soon. So for scent, we got to understand that. So deer's noses are really good. So if you can take care of scent, that's probably like 80% of the battle right there. If you can get your scent under control, that's probably about 80% of what you got to worry about. Like the sight and the hearing, that's a small portion. Scent is the biggest. That's why I'm starting with it. So that's what we need to understand. We also need to understand out in the woods kind of what that looks like for us. So for example, if I walk into my place I'm going to be hunting, my tree stand, my blind, I walk in, say I'm there for 4 hours. Well, then I walk out, right? Well, let's say the deer come 10 hours after you're there. If it hasn't rained, there's a good chance they're still going to be able to smell you, smell your boot prints. Deer have an extremely strong nose. So that's why the first thing we're going to talk about is the easiest to control, which is the wind. So the wind direction matters a lot more than people think it does. The wind direction is one of the biggest factors when it comes to deer not smelling you. You need to hunt the wind. If, let's say, behind the camera, facing you guys, that's where I want to shoot. That's where I want the deer to come. I need to make sure the wind is coming at me, so the wind is blowing my scent behind my back. I do not want the wind at my back pushing scent toward the deer, because what's going to happen if that happens is the deer are going to smell you. I mean, I'm going to get into a couple tactics where if that does happen, your chances are way lower that the deer are going to smell you, but it still happens a lot. So you need to be cognizant of that. Another thing that people don't talk about with wind control is height. I have experienced, especially recently, this is my 5th hunting season on doing hunting, right? So something I've noticed the last 2 or 3 seasons is height matters. So let's say I have deer, I want the deer to show up that way, right? Well, let's say the wind is also blowing that way, so it's blowing toward the deer. Well, if I'm on the ground and the wind is blowing, right, toward the deer, they're going to smell me because deer are on the ground. Something that people don't talk about is the height. If I'm up in a tree stand or I'm in a tree, let's say 10 feet in the air, 20 feet in the air, if that wind blows, if the wind conditions are right, a lot of times your scent is going to blow over the deer and they won't smell you. I experienced this last weekend. Last weekend was my first hunt of the season, and the wind was god-awful. It was garbage. The wind was horrible. It was almost blowing right toward them. You want to know something? Last weekend I saw maybe the most amount of deer that I've ever seen in my hunting career. You know why? It's because of the height difference. I was in a 12-foot tree stand while the deer were on the ground. So while it was blowing to their direction, it wasn't blowing exactly at them. So that is something you need to understand. You need to take all this into consideration when you're choosing where you want to hunt and how you want to hunt. Wind direction by itself is going to get you a big portion of what you need to worry about when deer hunting, but it isn't enough in my opinion. What you need to also consider is the clothes you're wearing and yourself. So the night before hunting, they do make like 0-scent shampoos, bar soap, that sort of stuff. I've never used it, and it probably helps, but I don't think it really matters. What you should do and should avoid, however, do not take a shower with extremely strong scented shampoo or scented anything for that matter. Personally, the night before, I will just do a good job rinsing off. I won't really use anything. I mean, if you're really gross, then use it lightly, but try not to get super gross the night before. So that's kind of what you need to worry about there. You need to make sure that you don't stink. Like if you smell like BO, the deer are going to smell your BO, and just like people, no one likes that, right? Okay, the next thing that we got to talk about is our hunting clothes. So right here I have my tote. This has almost all of my hunting clothes in it. You need to make sure that your hunting clothes are properly taken care of. There's a couple steps to that. Step 1, I do recommend this compared to the shampoo. Go to Walmart, and I'll post a picture on screen right now, but go to Walmart and get you some 0 cent clothes washing detergent. You need to get some of that and wash your clothes in it. Make sure the washing machine doesn't have any scent to it. Make sure that, like, my mom had this little ball in there. Make sure you get rid of that. It's a scent thing for regular clothes. You don't want scent all over your clothes. Make sure you use that shampoo. And then do not put them in the dryer. What you want to do after that, once they're wet, you take them outside and you hang them in the wood. So as you can see behind me, there's all these trees and stuff. That's where I hung my clothes. So once I washed them, I hung them out here for about 2 weeks. It does take a while. So what that's going to do is the scent eliminating shampoo and soap is going to get rid of the clothes scent that they had on them initially. Then you're going to bring them out here, let them hang in the wind. They're going to blow in the trees. And what that's going to do is that's going to get the natural scents of the woods, the forest, on your clothes. And that is exactly what you want to do. But I see that talked about. There's one extra thing that you can do to take it a step further. And what I'm referring to is called smoking up. Now, what you do with your clothes is you start a fire. Now, I can probably make a video on how to do that because it definitely is a skill, but I assume most of you can probably figure that out. You want to start a fire. It's very crucial you do not burn lots of cardboard, plastic, and stuff like that. You want to burn wood. You want to burn natural materials, stuff like that I just held right there. Then what you want to do, once you get your fire going and there's smoke, you can do one of two things. You can just leave it as is, or you can throw a bunch of green matter on it. So like fresh grass, fresh pine needles. Any of you who've been around fires know that when you do that, you get a lot of smoke. Once you get that smoke, you want to take your clothes, just like I have here. This is my face mask, and you want to hold it over the smoke for at least 10 seconds. You want to do that with every piece of clothing. And then if you get a smell of it, these clothes have been smoked up a few days ago and they've been sitting in this tote. You get a smell of it, and you smell campfire. You smell smoke. Why that's important is smoke is a natural scent and it's a natural cover. Now, there are products out there like scent eliminators you can spray on yourself. I've never seen them work. I don't notice a difference whether I use them or not. However, smoking up, and you can smoke up every time you go hunting, so what you can do is put your clothes on and you can just stand in the campfire. I don't do that because then you need to start a fire every time you go hunting, and that sounds like a hassle. So I just do this. I smoke up all my clothes, and then what I do is I put them all in that tote you saw. This is just the lid, and I cover it. Something also important is if you smoke up your clothes, but you put them in the tote and you put them inside, like in your room or in the kitchen, somewhere where lots of like food scents, human scent is, the clothes are just going to return back to normal. You want to make sure you keep your tote outside. You want to make sure you keep it dry, though. You don't want wet, moldy hunting clothes. So that's kind of the secret formula. Smoking up is something that I'm trying out this year, and so far seems to be working. As I explained last weekend, I had deer directly downwind of me. So now whether it was from the height difference and the height doesn't always work. Like, I wouldn't bank on that. It does help, though. But I do believe that when deer get a drift of human scent, even if they get a smell of your scent, if there's a big underlying smell of smoke on top of that, I think you're going to have really good luck and the deer are going to be curious. Like, smoke is very natural in the woods and it's a curious scent for deer. An example of this is like my grandfathers or people past it or other people I know. Now, my grandfathers didn't smoke, but people they knew did, and their dads did, and people I know. What people will do is they'll smoke cigarettes in the deer stand. Now, I'm not advising for smoking. That's not what I'm trying to get at here. But something you'll notice is it doesn't scare the deer away. It actually kind of makes them curious. They smell that cigarette smoke, and they're like, oh, what is that? And they come close. My buddy, his first ever buck he shot, he was hunting with his brother, and his brother was smoking cigarettes. And guess what? He shot the first ever buck of his life. So, honestly, it comes down to that. Smoke is a great cover. Use it to your ability. But also, don't layer it on too heavy because you got to sit in those clothes, and if they smell like extremely dense smoke, yeah, you're probably not going to like that. But that's what you got to do. That is how you do scent control. Now, there's lots of other nuances and little things that people will go into, but I honestly believe if you just kind of do that, you kind of monitor your wind, you make sure you're taken care of, your clothes are taken care of, and you kind of are just cognizant about where you're walking in the woods, you're going to be good. As long as you do all those things, you should never be smelled by deer again. Now, granted, things happen. Like the wind could dramatically shift, your smoke scent could be wearing off. crazy things do happen. It's very unpredictable out there, but on the average, and not even on the average, above that, like most of the time you go out, you should be totally fine if you follow those principles that I've just laid out for you. So that's it. This is Hunting Masterclass number 1. We're going over scent. I'm going to break down the entirety of hunting for you. So we got scent. Next, I'm going to pair vision and sound together, so be watching for that next week. Then we're going to go into equipment. Arguably, I think that one is going to be interesting because a lot of people like to spend a lot of money on their gear, and I genuinely don't think you need to do that. So that's kind of what it is. We're going to break it all down. I'm going to break it all down for you, and then hopefully at the end of this series, I am going to go out there with all the principles that I've learned and I've talked about, and I'll continue to go out there, and I'm going to get a deer down on the ground with my bow. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Even if you're not a hunting fan, I recommend that you stick around because maybe I can change your mind. Maybe you're going to realize, hey, this stuff's kind of interesting. And regardless, even if you're not hunting, this stuff may be useful to you someday. Who knows what can happen? Who knows where the world's going to go? So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you on Masterclass number 2.